Excel Unit B. What can I say about Excel Unit B? This is probably the most difficult unit of the entire semester. So once we get past this, and I tried to spend a lot of time on it, once we get past it, the rest of the semester is a piece of cake. So let's just take this slow and deal with this concept of absolute values and absolute reference. The first thing that I would do if I were you, before you ever start on this video, pause it and set up a second window to where you can look at the video, see what I'm doing, and then try it yourself before you move on. I find it a lot easier to do it as we talk. We're going to work with this also in the classroom, so if you don't quite get it, keep practicing, but we'll work on it again. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to remind you about the operators, the plus, minus, slash, asterisk. Remember about that order of precedence, because the order of precedence, in what order is your formula calculated? If I put a formula out here equals 5 plus 3 times 4, what's the answer to this question? Well, if you remember your high school math, the answer to this question is going to be 17, right? And I'm going to show my formulas here so you can see this. Way over here on the side. Because the order of precedence is, if you remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses first is calculated, then exponents, then multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. You will do all of these in that order. In this case, there's no parentheses, there's no exponents, so the multiplication is done first. So now if I do this formula here, and I do my equal sign, and I put my parentheses, and I put 5 plus 3, close my parentheses, times 4. Now, if we follow the order of operation, what are we going to get? We should get the 5 plus 3 times 4, or 32. So 8 times 4. So remember this order of operation, because that's exactly what happens within Excel. I'm going to erase this so it doesn't mess up my screen. And the proper way to erase items in Excel is to right-click and clear the contents. Remember, if you're in Excel and you're trying to find an average or something, if you don't clear your contents, Excel thinks that you are going to be having something in that cell. So if you go to do your averages, you may mess up your averages, and I'll show you what that means. Okay, now I turn that off so that we can see what's going on here. Let's talk about the averages. We did a simple addition before. Let's calculate an average. Go down to cell B13, and we want to calculate the average of these 5 cells. How many average cake pans are there in these storage units? So what you're going to do is, if you go to your home tab, and you can go over here to your automatic functions, okay, and here is your average. The other way that you can get to these functions that Excel has within it, go up here to your function icon, insert a function, and if you see the selection you want down here in the window, you can select here. Otherwise, type what you want to do. And I want to create an average. So what's going to come up is the average. Click OK. Now Excel is asking, what is the range of numbers that you want to create an average? Well, they've selected B4 through B12. Well, we don't want that. You go over here to the spreadsheet and highlight what we want to average. So see, I have not included the total, so be careful of what you select. Click OK, and the average in all of these units is 34.4. How am I going to do it on the next rows? I'm going to grab that fill handle and copy it over. So that's my average. The maximum, we're going to do the same. We're going to go up here to the function icon. We're going to type in max, press enter, and it's going to find your maximum. When I click on that, it's going to say, okay, what am I finding? What range? Go up here and select your range again. Click OK. The highest number in this range, the maximum number, is 55. I'm going to do that again for the minimum. minimum. When I hit enter, it's going to come up and find several options. For the minimum, I just want the plain MIN option, and I'm going to select my range, and I'm going to click OK. Now, what I want to show you now is we talked about a range. I'm going to select this range of cells, these two cells, and I'm going to copy both of them at the same time. It copies the formulas for me. Now, once again, remember, it's going to work because it is copying the pattern, not the exact cells that you selected. So now, if I want to put totals here, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to select my auto sum very quickly and select check on there. Copy those all the way down. Get my totals. So now I can continue to work with this spreadsheet. These formulas are called relative formulas because if I click on any of these formulas, you take a look, it's saying you go over 4 cells to the left and you add everything up going to the next cell to the left. You copy this range. When I click down here on one of these other formulas, it is relative to the location of the cell where you are going to put the answer. Everything is relative within Excel. Now, we've got a question mark out here, what if? Why did I put that what if here? Excel is called a what if program because if I change one thing, if I say I need more pie pans on an average, or I need more pie pans in this storage 1, instead of 53, I'm going to put 60. Now, when I press enter, I want you to look at these totals all the way around and look at what Excel does. Excel changes them. Well, that was probably hard to see, so I'm going to change something more, make a more dramatic change. And what I'm going to put in here is in storage 3 is I'm going to put 500. Now, take a look and watch all of these numbers change. So by using the relative reference, I'm not saying here to add these numbers. I'm saying add these cells relative to where I'm going to put the answer. So that's what the what if means. Now, on the absolute, let's talk about this. What if I want a 10% increase in my inventory in all these storage units? That's what this is saying. Anytime you put in a percentage in Excel, you need to put it in as 0.10. That's 10%. If I put in a 10, thinking it would be 10%, and then I change the formatting of this by going up here to this number area and change the percent, look at what I get. By using decimals, I will get 10%. If I put in a 10, I'm going to get 1,000%. So be cautious the way you put in your decimals. What this is saying is if I have a 10% increase or 110% change in the value of the total value of storage in storage 1, the way that I'm going to write this formula is my equal sign. I'm going to go over here and click on 195 because that's the cell that we're going to use. I'm going to put my times, and then I'm going to select H1 because that's my percentage. When I enter that formula, a 10% increase is going to take the total value to 195, from 195 to 214. Now, can I copy this formula? I'm going to try it. No. Why? Because if you see these highlighted cells, that's my pattern. My pattern is for Excel to go to the left 2 cells and multiply by whatever is 3 cells above. Look at the pattern in this formula. 2 cells to the left, multiply it by 3 cells up. Well, what's in that cell? Nothing. So I'm going to get a 0. There. And the same thing here. If I go 2 cells to the left and I multiply it by 3 cells up, well, that's a label. That's not a number, so it can't multiply. So what I have to do is I have to tell Excel here in this first formula I wrote, no matter what cell I use to the left, I always want to go through to that cell H1 and use that entry. I like to think of it as an anchor. I want to anchor this part of the formula to cell H1. And the way you do that is by pressing your F4 key. Make sure that you're in your formula, you're somewhere in this H1 cell. In this cell portion of the formula. Press F1. Press F. With this new program I'm working, it's not working. So what you do is when you press F4, you're going to get a $ sign in front of the H and a $ sign in front of the 1. That, I like to think of that $ sign sort of as my anchor. And now what this is telling Excel, I am going to go 2 cells to the left, and wherever I move it, I'm always going to use H1 as this portion of my formula. So when I enter this, now if I copy it down, look what happens. This formula here, 2 cells to the left times H1, works. Perfect. So now I can copy this on down and my calculations are correct. So that is the absolute cell reference. It's confusing. We'll practice it again to make sure that we're getting everything okay. Now, one thing I want to show you here is if I want to add another category, say I want to add spoons, I can go wherever I want to add it. Say I want to add it between cells C and D. I'm going to click on D, and I'm going to right-click on the letter D, and I am going to insert. And what I insert is a column. If I want to insert 2 columns, I highlight 2 columns, right-click, insert. There's my 2 columns added. So you can insert columns. And what's really nice is watch your totals again. If I put a figure in here, it's going to automatically add it. Because Excel expands your columns, expands your formula if you've created it like this where you're saying a range, beginning and ending, and then if that expands, Excel expands the formula. You can do the same thing with rows. Say I want to insert 2 storage units. I'm going to right-click, insert two rows, and I can put 1A and 1B here. I can add whatever I need to add. So you don't have to redo your whole spreadsheet. It's very, very helpful. Now that we've gotten through with all of the difficult stuff, I want to show you something fun. Many times when you're starting an Excel spreadsheet, across down in the rows, you're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. Instead of having to type all of these numbers, Excel has an automatic fill where if I just put in the number 1 and I grab my fill handle and copy down, I'm just going to have ones, right? I'm copying. If I put a 2 in the next cell, once again, Excel is working with patterns. This pattern Excel understands is I'm going to number these things numerically, 1 through whatever. I use my fill handle, drag it down. Excel is automatically going to fill the rest of the cells. In the same way, January, and if I type January in here, what's it going to do if I copy? It's going to copy in order by month. It's going to spell out everything else for you. When it gets to December, starts right over with January again. That's sort of fun. That way, and the same thing across. If I type January there, go across the columns, you're going to get the months and you don't have to type them yourself. You can go either direction. Now, if I want to do a different pattern, say I want even numbers, 2, 4, Excel once again understands I created a pattern, 2, 4, copy it on down, 6, 8, 10. The trick to this is make sure that you have highlighted the pattern. If I just click on the 2, copy it down, I'm just going to get 2s. If I click on the pattern, copy it down, you continue with the pattern. It's really nice to where you don't have to do a lot of work yourself. So hopefully I've helped a little bit on the absolute values. Once again, like I said, we're going to work on it a little bit in class to make sure, because this is a very difficult concept. So if you finished here, go ahead with your concept review and finish the rest. I will see you on Wednesday. Bye.